The sports world is filled with great athletes fans just love to hate. But more often than not, you'll see fans come together and try to uplift a player to their true potential. Enter Stephen Strasburg, a player who fans love to love. He spent his entire career knocking on the door of greatness, but many bumps along Strasburg's journey would lead to his retirement in 2024. From weight issues that saw him almost give up on baseball altogether, to being considered the most hyped pitching debut the game has ever seen, and a World Series MVP. Stephen Strasburg has etched his name into MLB history books. Let's take a look into the bumpy journey of one of the greatest to step on the mound, Stephen Strasburg. Stephen Strasburg was born on July 20th, 1988 in San Diego, California, to his parents Jim Strasburg and Kathleen Sweat. People have this idea that great athletes are always standout performers, but similar to Michael Jordan's high school career, Stephen saw his fair share of ups and downs during his time at West Hills High School in Sani, California. Strasburg's junior year was rough, to say the least. He struggled to an atrocious 1-10 record, but just as with MJ, Stephen would use this lackluster showing as motivation for his senior year. To say he made a complete 180 would be an understatement. Stephen Strasburg put on a clinic his entire senior season. He finished with a 1.68 ERA, 7 complete games, and 74 strikeouts in 62.1 innings, setting the West Hills High records for ERA and shutouts. This performance would earn him the titles of West Hills 2006 Athlete of the Year, Second Team All-League, and draw some attention from scouts. Maybe his abysmal junior season, or his knack for yelling at his teammates, held some influence in the scouts' minds, or perhaps it was his own doing when he told scouts not to draft him. Whatever it was, Strasburg went undrafted in 2006. And just to throw salt in the wound, Strasburg's first choice of college, Stanford, rejected him. Stephen still had plenty of colleges seeking his services, and he ultimately decided to stay close to home and attend San Diego State under the tutelage of head coach and Hall of Famer Tony Gwynn. Perhaps validating the reluctance to draft Strasburg in 2006, when he showed up to SDSU, he was 250 pounds and in terrible shape, barely able to bench press just 95 pounds. He was in such bad shape he couldn't make it through conditioning drills without yakking. His teammate Nate Solo said, "Strasburg is stopping in the middle of the field and just hurling." The strength coach, Dave Oten, was so unimpressed by Strasburg's physique and conditioning that he felt he deserved the nickname Slothberg. His other teammate, Bruce Billings, was just as disappointed with Stephen's conditioning, saying, "Dang, this guy is not going to make it. He's not going to make it." All this disappointment in himself and ridicule from others was making him consider quitting baseball altogether and just working at a department store. Instead of quitting, Strasburg was determined to overcome the doubters and himself, so he got in the gym and lost 30 pounds. He would start his freshman year as a reliever for the Aztecs before being promoted to their closer. He would hold his opponents to a mere 141 batting average against, earning Strasburg the co-freshman of the year in the Mountain West Conference Award. The Aztecs saw not only his body transformation, but a shift in Stephen's mentality and decided he was ready to be in the rotation his sophomore season, and he did not disappoint. During the offseason, Strasburg added about 8 miles per hour to his fastball, even touching 100 at times, leading to the most dominant season of his life. He had an 8-3 record, starting 13 games with 4 complete games, 2 of which were shutouts. In those 97.1 innings, he struck out 133 batters and gave up only 1 home run, leaving him with an ERA of 1.57. The highlight of his season came on April 11th as he took the mound against the University of Utah and struck out 23 batters, a Mountain West Conference record at the time. Still in the peripheral view of scouts, but not being draft eligible yet, Strasburg would have to replicate his season again to stay atop the draft boards. Not only did he keep himself on the draft boards, he became the best draft prospect in a very long time. Strasburg ended his junior year in 2009 with a 13-1 record, essentially erasing his junior season in high school from everyone's mind. The 1.32 ERA with 195 strikeouts in 109 innings is impressive, but the highlight of that year came when Strasburg threw his first career no-hitter on May 8th against the Air Force Falcons, where he struck out 17 batters, which, by the way, was his final home start. How fitting, right?
Strasburg ready to go. The 1-2 pitch slider, strike 3 called, a no-hitter!
Even in his one loss in the NCAA regionals against the Virginia Cavaliers, Strasburg still struck out 15 in 7 innings. His efforts didn't go unnoticed as Stephen took home the Dick Hauser Trophy and the National Pitcher of the Year award in 2009. Stephen Strasburg's record of 21-4 as a starter at San Diego was enough for the Washington Nationals to take notice, as they unsurprisingly used their first overall pick in the 2009 draft on Strasburg, inking a 4-year, $15.1 million contract.
The Washington Nationals select Stephen Strasburg.
He would make his pro debut in the Arizona Fall League on October 16th of that year with the Phoenix Desert Dogs. He left the AFL with 4 wins, earning him the title of top pitching prospect and number 2 overall prospect by Baseball America. Strasburg would start 2010 in the Double-A with the Harrisburg Senators, earning his first win in his debut on April 11th with 8 strikeouts over 5 innings. The city of Harrisburg was so amped to have Strasburg on their team that when 7,895 fans showed up to his home debut, they set a record for attendance. The Senators lost the game, but this was a sign of the magnetism that Strasburg has. Less than a month later, Stephen would be promoted to the Syracuse Chiefs of the AAA. Once again, Strasburg's home debut would set an attendance record, this time 13,766 fans packed into the ballpark to watch Strasburg work. And he didn't let them down, striking out 6 batters while allowing 1 hit and 1 walk in 6 scoreless innings. Overall, he dominated the minors with a 1.3 ERA and 65 strikeouts in 55.1 innings, leading to a 7-2 record. It was at this point the Nats decided Strasburg shouldn't be wasting his pitching in the minors and called him up for his debut on June 8, 2010, being referred to as the most hyped pitching debut the game has ever seen. Against the Pirates, he tossed 7 innings, allowing only 4 hits and 2 earned runs. He knew his stuff played in the majors, and it showed as he pounded the strike zone. He walked none and struck out 14 batters, just 1 short of the MLB record. He had 8 more great starts, including one against the eventual World Series champion San Francisco Giants, where he allowed only 1 run through 6 innings before he had his first injury. On July 29th, Strasburg was placed on the 15-day IL with right shoulder inflammation. Though it was a quick recovery, it was a sign of things to come. He returned on August 10th, but in his 3rd game back on August 21st, Strasburg was removed with a right flexor strain. And that would be the end of the season for the most hyped pitching debut the game has ever seen, as he had to get Tommy John surgery in September. He finished his first season in the majors with a stellar 2.91 ERA and 1.39 ERA+. After spending time in the minors in 2011, Strasburg came up for the Nats in September and picked up right where he left off the season before with a 1.5 ERA in 24 innings. 2012 would be the first full MLB season that Strasburg would go into with no health issues, and he did not disappoint. In April, he recorded an NL best 34 strikeouts and second best 1.13 ERA, earning him the Pitcher of the Month title. On May 20th, Strasburg hit his first big league homer against the Orioles. A month later, on June 13th, he became the first pitcher of the 2012 season to reach 100 Ks. In his 28 starts that year, not only did he remain injury-free, he threw 159.1 innings and struck out 197 batters. Both were obviously career highs at that point. This earned him his first career All-Star nod, and he also won the Silver Slugger for pitchers. Yeah, youngins, pitchers used to hit in the NL. 2013 would be an incredible and mostly healthy year for Strasburg, only making 1 stop on the IL with a mild lat strain, which was nothing too serious. He pitched a shutout over 7 innings on opening day in a 2-0 win over the Marlins. On May 16th, Strasburg would see the 8th inning for the first time in the majors. He would repeat this trend on May 26th and July 24th. He pitched his first complete game on August 11th in a 6-0 shutout over the Phillies. 6 days later, Strasburg would receive his first big league ejection after throwing at Andrelton Simmons of the Braves. It was a year of firsts for the youngster, finishing the season 8-9 with a 3.0 ERA and 191 strikeouts. 2014 would be business as usual for Strasburg. He led the league in strikeouts at 242 along with Johnny Cueto and finished 9th in Cy Young balloting with a 14-11 record. However, it wasn't all good news that year, as his former coach and mentor Tony Gwynn passed away from cancer that he had attributed to years of chewing tobacco. Although tragic, this would inspire Stephen to kick his chaw habit. Unfortunately, Strasburg would end up on the IL twice during the 2015 season with neck tightness and an oblique strain, the latter of which would keep him out for over a month. Somehow, he didn't earn a single All-Star appearance from 2013 to 2015, even though he averaged 29 starts per season with a 3.17 ERA. I'm not sure how he didn't, but I do know he was absolutely robbed in those years. Despite semi-frequent injuries, in 2016, the Nationals offered Stephen Strasburg a 7-year, $175 million extension to stay in the nation's capital. 2 months into the season, on June 26th, Strasburg was put on the IL with an upper back strain. He returned July 3rd in style, throwing a no-hitter through 6.2 innings against the Reds before being taken out. After capturing his 12th win on July 8th, Strasburg became the first player since 1912 to have a 12-0 start to the season. He would run his record up to 16-0 before the Dodgers gave him the first L of his 2016 season on July 21st. His performance was enough to garner his second All-Star nod. Unfortunately, Strasburg would see the IL again in August, and it was seeming to become inevitable that Strasburg would end up injured at least once a season. However, 2017 was easily his best season, as it was the only time he was a Cy Young finalist. He finished with a 2.54 ERA and a 178 ERA+, which would be the best for any season of his career. The highlight of the season was on August 30th against the Marlins, when Stephen Strasburg threw his first complete game shutout in the majors. Not only that, Strasburg also went yard to break up the scoreless game. The only downside that year was on July 27th, when he was placed on the IL with a right elbow nerve impingement. At the time, it wasn't a big deal, but this would mark the beginning of his ongoing nerve issues. 2018 was a pretty quiet year for Strasburg. He was injured for parts of the season, but still managed 156 strikeouts in 22 starts. Maybe the quiet year is just what the doctor ordered, because 2019 would be the year Strasburg worked his entire life for. Strasburg would end the 2019 season with an 18-6 record, a 3.32 ERA, and lead the National League in wins. And there were a ton of highlights along the way. On April 21st, Strasburg became the leader in innings pitched by a Nationals player. On July 3rd, in the top of the 4th, he would strike out the side for an immaculate inning against the Marlins. And his bat was still there too. He went 3 for 3 with 5 RBIs and a homer in July against the Braves. Strasburg's dominance played a key role in the Nationals not only making it to the postseason, but also winning their first postseason series in franchise history and eventually the World Series. He finished the postseason a perfect 5-0. 2 of those wins came in World Series games, where Strasburg only allowed 12 hits while striking out 14 and only walking 3. The years of battling weight, injuries, and at times his own mind paid off in not only a World Series, but his first and only World Series MVP as well.
The Willie Mays Most Valuable Player Award, presented by Chevrolet, goes to Stephen Strasburg of the Washington Nationals.
Luckily for him, it was a contract season, and he was about to get paid. He was given a 7-year, $245 million contract to stay in Washington for the rest of his career. Little did anyone know at the time, his contract would go down as one of the worst ever given out. Strasburg began the shortened 2020 season on the IL and wouldn't come off until August 9th. 5 days later, on August 14th, he left the game after only 3 batters and would be back on the IL for the rest of the season. 2021 would see Strasburg make 2 starts before landing on the IL in April. He made 3 more starts before suffering a neck strain in June that put him back on the IL. In July, it was announced Stephen would undergo surgery to alleviate neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome, putting an end to his 2021 season. Basically, thoracic outlet syndrome is a death toll for the career of any athlete who has to deal with it. According to Johns Hopkins, thoracic outlet syndrome occurs when nerves or blood vessels are compressed by the rib, collarbone, or neck muscles at the top of the outlet. Considering the constant rib and neck issues Strasburg was having up until this point, this was pretty much the beginning of the end. So, in the first 2 years of his new $245 million contract, Strasburg started a combined 7 games. There was still hope Strasburg would be ready to go after surgery. It was obvious he was still one of the best pitchers in the league when he wasn't dealing with injuries. Unfortunately for Strasburg and the Nats, this wasn't the case, as he was only able to start 1 more game in his entire career. He started the 2022 season on the IL. He was back in action on June 9th to start, which would be his last, as I just mentioned. And it wasn't a great showing. He gave up 7 runs in 4 1/3 innings. 5 days later, he was back on the IL, where he would remain for the rest of the season. 2023 would be the year whispers of Strasburg's inevitable retirement would begin. He didn't report to spring training while he recovered from his thoracic outlet syndrome. In June, it was announced Stephen Strasburg would not be allowed any physical activity due to nerve damage that was now being considered severe. In August, rumors started swirling about Steven making his retirement announcement on September 9th. The Nats squashed this rumor on September 8th with hopes that Strasburg would return after surgery in which he had a rib and 2 neck muscles removed to help with his injury. Unfortunately, that relief never came for Steven Strasburg. On April 6, 2024, Strasburg announced his official retirement from professional baseball at 35 years old. It wasn't the ending he or fans were hoping for, but no one can deny that Steven Strasburg not only made his mark on baseball, but on the hearts of fans all over the world. Whenever the name Steven Strasburg comes up, hopefully fans will remember him for his excellent play that resulted in a 113-62 record, 3.24 ERA, 3 All-Star appearances, 3 top 10 Cy Young finishes, and a World Series MVP. And not just his 16 separate IL stints or unfortunate contract. If he could have stayed healthy throughout his career, it's not crazy to say he would have been a Hall of Famer. And who knows, maybe one day he'll get that Hall of Fame nod, but for the time being, it's looking unlikely. It's pretty crazy to think about a man going from Slothburg to the most hyped prospect in years. Let's hope with baseball out of his life that Steven Strasburg can remain healthy and not live uncomfortably. Do you think Steven Strasburg did enough in his career to be in the Hall of Fame? Or with all the injuries and missed games, has that opportunity flown out the window? Let me know in the comments, check out this video, and subscribe to Baseball Buzz.